All right, this video is going to be how to basically assemble your birdhouse. You're going to need tape measure, speed square. You're going to need a regular drill of some sort that can actually drill holes. Some wood glue. It says wood glue on it. That is in the tool room on the shelf. You're going to need a impact drill. You're going to need a bit. This is a square bit, and it fits these screws. The screws that you're going to use are these little trim screws. All right, these bits I keep in my office. When you get done with them, you bring them back to me. As well as these, you're gonna use this drill bit right here to pre-drill your holes. That way you don't split out your wood. All right, so these little things, these and these are in my office. All you gotta do is come and ask for them. To put that bit in, some of you may have not used a regular drill before. You can hold the chuck, I don't know if you can see. So if you look down in here, you can see these teeth. All right, this is in forward. If you got to hold this part, and these teeth will actually come out and grab. So once I get the teeth pretty close to where I want to grab my screw, I mean not my screw, but my bit, put my bit in. You want to make sure that your bit is in straight, not wobbly. So my bit is in there. Then I'm just going to take and tighten it up by hand. And you can hear the clicks, and we're in there good. There's different modes, 1, 2, or 3. For what we're doing, I'm gonna leave this on 2. All right. And you want to put your drill on drill bit mode. There's hammer mode. Now, not all drills have a hammer mode. All right. This one does, but I'm gonna leave that on drill mode. These numbers right here are actually torque settings, but you don't need that for drilling holes. That's actually just for putting in screws. Your impact drill, if you've never put a bit in here, basically all you gotta do is push it in, and it locks and it holds itself in. So you can see I can't pull it out. Now if you wanna get the drill bit out, you just pull this collar out. The collar's spring loaded, it kind of shoots the bit out. So just pull that collar out, forward and reverse. All right, so step 1. We're gonna get started. We're gonna get started with the front and the back. Remember I labeled that side A and B. Now since mine match actually so good, either way, if you can, now this isn't always an option, but if you can, I'm going to turn the cup part towards the inside of my birdhouse. So I'm actually going to do these backwards, but your boards may not be cupped, and if yours fit either way, then you can put them however you want to put them. But if they only fit one way, if these two only match up one direction, then you need to install them that direction. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that. These pieces here, 9 1/4. So I came up, when we cut this, I came up 9 1/4 this direction. All right, came up 9 1/4 this direction. This board's 9 1/4. So these two should match. Now, if they don't match, I'm going to take them I'm going to take either this piece to the miter saw and trim some off, or I'm going to take this piece to the miter saw and trim some off to where this matches this ends up at that point right there. I have students that don't get those to match, and this ends up short. Well, if that ends up short, once you put your roof pieces on, you end up with a big gap. All right, so gotta make sure that these are straight. And the way that I like to do these, you can do this any number of ways. So one of the first things I'm going to do, you see this piece, like I said, I'm going to put the cupped side towards the inside of my birdhouse. I am going to pre-drill some holes. My holes, this board is going to go here, like so. I want to come in about 3/8 of an inch. Since this is 3/4, half of 3/4, for my screw to hit the center line of that, I want to come in 3/8 of an inch. All right, you don't have to measure that. You can kind of eyeball what 3/8 is. But we're going to drill some holes. There's one. Now, what I like, if you're good, and you want to be good about this, 9 1/4, I'm going to put about 4 screws up through there. So 9 divided by 9 divided by 4 is like, what is that, 2 1/2, 2 1/4, 2 1/2. No, that can't be right. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna go about every 3 inches. 3, 6, and 9. So if you go about every 3 inches up through there, and that makes your spacing look nice and neat. So we got 4 holes, all right? Those are all pre-drilled. And before I even get to this part right here, because it actually makes it kind of hard to hold if you don't, these little trim screws, they got a square head on the end, and they're about 1.5 inches long. All right, we're gonna run these trim screws in. And I like to get one started on the bottom, get one started on the top. I'm gonna take my wood glue. Whoa. We're gonna take my wood glue. All right, and my wood glue is just gonna go along this edge right here. And you don't start back about 1 inch. You don't have to put a whole lot of wood glue here. The wood glue is really strong once it dries. Very, very strong once it dries. The reason I've got these screws pre-ran is because this is kind of hard to hold by yourself, especially this first part. But once you get this one screwed in, everything goes pretty well. Now, you really want to make sure that you get this flush. Flush is a big deal. Got the wrong drill. Now your first screws, all right, may split out your wood a little bit, and I'll show you a way. We'll show you how to prevent that on the next part. Now you don't want to run your screws too deep. All right, if you run your screws too deep, and you can see my screws sticking out the side here. I'm going to fix that. I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. All right. This screw, I pre-drilled it through the first board, but not into the second board. So if I'll actually drill these into that second board, that'll prevent that split out that we got on the top. This first piece is the hardest piece to put on because I don't have anything to hold up my board, but I'll show you how we fix that in just a minute. This next side piece should be 9 1/4, and you want to kind of dry fit everything first. So dry fit just means I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to see how this fits up to see if I've got a gap in my corner at all. And I got less than maybe a 1/16 of an inch gap, so I can make that work out. Now, if you got more than a 1/16, you probably can't make that work out. If I get this good and flush, I'll put some glue on this. But if I get that good and flush, I can pre-drill my hole. The reason I put my screws, I only need these 2 screws on the end to hold it for right now. We can go back and put those in later. And I'm turning my cup of my wood towards the inside. I'm gonna get all this flushed up. I'm gonna hold that, that's flush. I wanna put this hole directly across from that one, if possible. I'm gonna go ahead and run that screw, that way it'll hold this side flush. And you barely wanna run those screws in, like you don't wanna crank down on it. And now, see, this side's gonna be a lot flusher because I have something to keep, and I can flush this back up in just a second. I want to come straight across from this screw. And if you're not very good at eyeballing, you can always measure it. And these screws shouldn't split out because I've pre-drilled the hole through both pieces. some of the things you can do. We'll take this piece out. I'm basically just redoing what we had here, but we're gonna make a, since that split that piece out, we're gonna pre-drill our hole here. And that just followed my screw hole that was already there, but that may make a difference for us here. All right, so I don't like that. So what I'm gonna do is take that right there. I'm actually gonna make a new hole. If you keep running it back in the same hole, it'll just keep pulling it back to not flush. All right, and over here. And the only reason I'm reluctant is to keep my screws straight across from each other, but I do have a partial solution to that, which is going to be, we're going to make this the back side of our birdhouse. And if we make that the back side, then just like the back side of your house at your home, most people aren't going to see that. All right, so that worked out a lot better. And here, I just started a new hole. I'll putty over that and we won't have any problems. I'm gonna flip to the other side. I'll come back and put these other 4 screws in a minute. Now, these kicked in just a little bit, so we'll probably have to kick these out. I'm gonna take that cupped part. We'll get rid of that stamp in just a minute, or the label. I'm gonna flush this side, but I like to dry fit it before I put any glue on it. That fits up good here, flush down at the bottom. Let's see where we at on this side, just before we put in glue or anything on here. We're good. Now, and as you see, everything doesn't always work out perfect, but part of it is, you know, fixing things to where they do look nice, or at least reasonably. We can go ahead and put glue on this side as well. So, and I'm not gonna worry what this side's doing. I don't have to worry about getting this. I'm only gonna worry about getting this side flush over here. All right, so we get this side flush and flush on the bottom. I'm gonna hold that in place, drill my hole. Part. Get this part up here flush. Hold that in place. And you don't want to run those in too deep. Now this side, you can see, if you look at it, it's kicked in. So I'm going to have to pull that over to make that flush. All right, so I'm gonna have to kind of do some work in here. I gotta get this flush and I gotta get this flush. So as I do that, as I'm pulling that to flush, once I get that to flush, I'm gonna have to drill it while I hold it. Now, if you can't do this by yourself, get you a partner or come get me. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but a lot of times what's happening is these screws right here just pulling that side because it's cupped. I'm gonna run my screw in, and I gotta pull that back to where the holes line up. Now you don't want to drill through your finger. what you can do sometimes is loosen the screws on the other side, and that'll let us flex just a little bit to where you can drill through. So actually, this is going to work out better if I do it this way, because I can put leverage on this. If I drill this top screw, then I'll run this bottom one back in, because I want to make sure that that's flush, this is flush. Now I don't want to drill through my finger over here, so you gotta make sure you're careful about not doing that. Now, like I said, if you can't get that, sorry, you probably couldn't see all that, but basically what I was doing was pushing this piece down so it sit on the table flush with this piece, and I was pulling that piece out to where it's flush on the side. That's a little better. That's better. So after that, I can run these two back in, and all I got to do after that is I can take where these screw holes are at. I can go over there and make me a small line, make it light. Take my speed square, go over there, make me a small line, flip it over, do the same on this side. And you can eyeball width halfway in between these, but you can measure it as well if you'd like to measure it. Make sure you go straight in, straight out with your drill bit. That way you don't break the drill bit. And all you got to do is run screws in from that point. The trim screws are in this Craftsman box sitting on top of the green file drawer thing behind me. And that is how you put together the main part of your birdhouse. All right, so assembly wise, if I had to give myself a grade on this, I'd probably give myself like a 92. Slightly off here, slightly off there, and slightly out of flush there. All right, so and some of that has to do with the wood being cupped, and some of it has to do with operator error. The one thing I would do before I did anything else is make sure you get some fine grit sand. But this is already fairly sanded. All you're doing is knocking off some of this fuzz around where your screws go in. You're knocking off these pencil lines on the edges, because once you put a roof here, right, you can't get to this part here. So you want to sand this down before you put anything else on.